Australians in their 30s and 40s are facing an alarming surge in cancer diagnoses, and researchers are scrambling to understand why. In Australians aged 30 to 39, rates of prostate cancer have risen by 500%, pancreatic cancer by 200%, bowel cancer by 173%, and liver cancer by 150%. Dr. Norman Swan investigates what's behind the change on Four Corners.
We have lots of bacteria in our gut, and it's that balance between good and bad bacteria that creates a healthy state. So we think that exposures or environmental toxins may change that balance between good and bad bacteria, allowing some not so friendly bacteria to produce toxins or agents that may damage our DNA.
Research is finding that exposure, probably early in life, to a toxin from a bowel bug called E. coli could be driving some of the mutations that Dan Buchanan is seeing in his tumour samples. Then there are assaults on our genes from exposure to chemicals and plastics.
Plastics, as we'll be talking about today, are the signature material of our modern era.
Dr. Christos Simeonidis is a paediatrician who studies chemical and microplastic exposures.
We're exposed to a broad universe of synthetic chemicals that our biology isn't familiar with. And that has left a great deal of uncertainty.
Well, Dr. Norman Swan joins us now live. Hi there, Norman. What do the statistics specifically tell us about cancers among young people?
Well, you gave some of the key statistics in your intro, Lorna. These are statistics from Cancer Australia, the federal government's cancer agency, since the year 2000, 2024, and 30 to 39-year-olds. And we're not alone in the world. The United States is actually showing even greater rises across a broader range of cancers. Britain is showing this as well. The International Agency on Research into Cancer is concerned about this in a global context. Where we are out there is in bowel cancer. Our bowel cancer rates in young people are world leading for some reason. That's what Dan Buchanan was relating to. So it's 10 different cancers in Australia, and those are 10 different diseases. Cancer is not just one disease, it's 10 different diseases. And so something has happened, and it's a generational shift. It's a shift between the boomer generation to Gen X to millennials, and it's significant. So something has happened.
What investigations are taking place into what is that something?
Well, you tend to blame yourself when you've got cancer. To have too many Barbies in the last 5 years, or eating too much bacon. And there's no question that red meat and processed meat is a risk factor for bowel cancer, but it tends to be a risk factor for bowel cancer in later life. Not these not so much is known about these 30 to 39-year-olds. Cancer takes 10, 20, 30 years to develop because there's multiple genetic mutations that take place. So if you want to know why a 35-year-old is getting cancer, any one of these cancers, then you've got to go back to this person's childhood or even their mother's pregnancy. So we've got to go back to the 60s, 70s, 80s and 90s, which is what we do in tonight's Four Corners, to see what might have been happening then to predict increased cancer rates now.
Really interesting. Norman, is there a particular demographic that is more likely to get these diagnoses at a young age?
No, age seems to be the factor that's relating to this. There are some groups of people from Southeast Asia seem to be more at risk of some forms of lung cancer, but early lung cancer in young women is not exclusive to people from Southeast Asia. So there isn't a particular demographic. I should say, and it's important here to say, that the absolute numbers are still low because age is still the major risk factor for cancer, so it goes up as we age. But the reason for doing this now is this program now is that this is not going away. This looks like a generational effect that will stay with these people, and if it doesn't change, then some predictions have it that when Gen X and millennials get to the age of 70, they will have double the cancer rates of their parents' generations. And those are not going to be low numbers.
That's incredible. Where then do experts feel the focus needs to be in terms of preventing the rates getting higher?
Well, Two or three things. One is there's a huge impost on government here to regulate chemicals and new chemicals in the environment much more strongly. We came across a Four Corners in 1975, which predicted the problems of plastics in 1975. And arguably, if that was true, we're paying the price now. So we've got to regulate plastics and chemicals, assuming they're not safe until proven safe, rather than assuming they're safe without the research having been done. Then there's the question of screening. We only screen for 4 cancers at the moment because the technologies only exist to do that for 4 cancers. But could those cancers be screened for at an earlier age or different criteria? And those come with issues, because the younger you are, the less likely they are to find cancer in a screening campaign, and you put burdens on waiting lists for things like colonoscopies. But that would save lives. But it's still only 4 cancers and only for a proportion of people. What's got to change, almost certainly, is earlier diagnosis when you've got symptoms. So that's up to us all to recognise symptoms that might occur that might be related to cancer. Have a GP that you trust. Go to that GP and say this is a new symptom, and the GP not saying to you, young people don't get cancer, because the message from tonight's Four Corners is, unfortunately, young people do get cancer.